What is the beginning of the spiritual path for one person will be different for another person? I know mine continued because I was questioning and I was asking what was going on with her. What was it that had me responding so profoundly to other people's pain? What does this word intuition mean anyway? Hi there. Welcome to Intuition, Your Success Compass. I just had a great conversation with someone. And I thought before I lose the train of thought, I'm going to jump on, record an episode, and allow this to be a diving off point or just a general discussion. We'll pretend you were there in with us. So the question was about how to identify a spiritual path. And it came about because this person was coming to me to ask about coaching and what it would be like to work with an intuitive coach, which is different for everyone because I don't do cookie cutter coaching. But it has a lot to do with me introducing you to you, having you understand or embrace what are your spiritual beliefs, if there are any. Don't have to have them for me to work with you. And in that, like, how can we expand upon the joy in your life? Because once we start to feel joy within ourselves, success shows up. So that's why, like the compass, the dog is leaving. She's like, peace out. I've already found my joy. I got to go. So with that, I had said to him that, well, I feel like it's my role to help you learn who you are, fully appreciate who you are, and then expand upon that. And how much can you possibly stand of a really amazing life? And in the spiritual question, he was saying, well, he doesn't really have one, which I don't believe is true, but there might not be a conscious one because, listen, until my mother croaked, I didn't even think about this stuff. I didn't question it. And I would say even after she passed, because, I had 3 kids, working full time, volunteering, trying to buy a house, all of that stuff that happens within life, and then grieving. And then we realized at the time that my dad had Alzheimer's, she was covering for him. And that added another component to a little bit of stress in life for my siblings and myself. So there wasn't really a questioning for me, except until that point where I felt like, no, I still need my mother. I never really felt like my mother was available for me or to me. I was number 7 of 8 kids. I was a pretty easy kid. Like, I didn't buck the system till I was old enough to say it off to my father, but I didn't buck the system. I wanted to raise energy, intuitively knew I had to raise the energy in the home. So I was a pretty easy kid. So we didn't require much in our household. So there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of developing of relationship between my mother and I. And just at the point where there could have been, and I know we would have been fun troublemakers together because I could get her inspired about things by being silly and fresh and everything. So at that point in my life, I was 29 when she passed. I was just getting to that point where I wanted to have an adult relationship with my mother. And then she croaked because that was her process. And it was after that that I started wanting her to be present. So I had to start thinking about, life after death and what happens to our soul. Does it go on? Do we expand? Because I still needed her to be in my kid's life and I still needed her to be in my life. And even if that was in non-physical form. Now, I have often joked that on her way out, my mother smacked me on the back of the head and said, okay, go do that thing you used to do as a kid. Because as a kid, not entirely proud of this now, but I knew things that other people didn't know. I didn't know I knew them, but I was smart enough to catch on that I had information that was valuable, and I may have extorted some people to not tell on them. It was just about buying my silence, and they shouldn't have done the things in the first place if they didn't want to get in trouble, right? Right. Right. So that started my entrepreneurial path, but I started questioning, okay, what does this mean? What does it mean when somebody passes? Are they still available? What is energy? I didn't even know what the word intuition meant. So I knew, though, that I had a knowing within me that she was fine, that everybody who passed was okay. I just didn't have a consciousness with it. And that's what I shared briefly with this person because we'd only just met. You don't really want to delve into that too deep. That well, we all have a knowing within us. Call it soul knowing, call it spiritual path, call it, everlasting knowledge, higher self. Some people refer to it as your sage self. Doesn't matter how you label it. We all have that knowing within us. And it's just a matter, I think, of connecting the dots and getting the wiring to work so that we can have both the intuitive feeling and the cognition or the conscious thought to say, oh, that energy of which I felt exists in the non-physical, and that could have been my grandmother or my angel or my spirit guides or that tree over there that's vibrating. Until there's a place and an experience within our life that actually connects those dots, I do feel like it stays fairly benign. There's usually something that happens that kicks that off. And sometimes it's having a conversation with someone like myself who's like, do you know that your aura is that big and it's traveling into outer space every day and that's why you're exhausted? And sometimes it's having a health crisis. Sometimes it's remembering who you really are because you just can't take the BS anymore. Sometimes it's because of something so beautiful. Like you see a mountainside and you can't believe it's that beautiful. And it connects to something within you and it just opens everything up. So as we were talking, I said to him, I'd be willing to bet that's in there somewhere. It's not up to me to tell you what your spiritual beliefs are, but part of my role is to help you acknowledge where they may be within you and maybe where you've put them, or did some beliefs get in the way and you had to smush them like I truly believe I had to. So I wanted to jump on here and continue the conversation without dragging into the podcast forum. Like I said, we just met. That would be rude. To encourage and, maybe continue the conversation for those who may be asking of yourself, what is my spiritual purpose? What is my spiritual life? Do I have one? What could it mean to me? How do I go about exploring? Does it have to be something that takes over my life and, all of a sudden I'm eating nuts and berries and walking barefoot and going off grid? If you want to, you go for it. Walking barefoot in the plush grass, yes. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. Nuts and berries, that's every day of my life, vegetarian. So, what is the beginning of the spiritual path for one person will be different for another person? I know mine continued because I was questioning and I was asking what was going on with her. What was it that had me responding so profoundly to other people's pain? What does this word intuition mean anyway? So it wasn't like I'm on my spiritual path. It was more, how do I understand myself and my wiring? And that's a lot of what knowing oneself and self-awareness is about. It's connecting to what matters to you. And you may have been taught in childhood certain philosophies or beliefs that other people had that you need to find your way out of. Another conversation I had today with a client was she was in awe of the fact that I didn't have to unwind any of my beliefs about Jesus, Mary, God, Buddha. I didn't have to because I was number 7 of 8 kids and I maintained that. My parents were just tired. And there was no indoctrination. There was no even taking us to any kind of church except for weddings. So it wasn't put in there. I was able to form my own beliefs and they continue to change to this day. The more I learn about theology and the more I learn about mythology and all the other ologies, the more interested I get in archaeology. That's been a recent thing. The more I delve into other cultures, that's really expanded lately because I want to be educated and conscious of what other people are going through. I get to form that on my own, but like some of my girlfriends, they weren't able to do that, or my partner, wasn't able to do that because they were raised in religions or lifestyles that told them who they were and told them what to believe. I'm very grateful. I did sign myself up for Bible school and I used to go to the church get togethers. I know now it's because I was drawn to the energy. But at the time, I was that, kid who marched to the beat of her own drum and signed herself up for things because, like I said, parents weren't really going to do that. So if you are someone who has to unwind some of the messages, it may be that you do that. You just unwind a little bit. You just take a little of the tension out. You don't have to throw it all away. If something resonates with you and something feels good, I say run with it. As long as it's not hurting or judging or demonizing another person or group, you do it, babe. You connect with what feels good to you because that overall is the energy of spirituality, which is, and I really do believe that the basis of all teachings is love. And then maybe our humanity or lack of humanity kind of gets in the way. So without a spiritual framework, it can also feel a little bit like you're bouncing off the walls and you go from one thing to another. Again, be mindful of cults. But other than that, collect as much information, learn as much as you possibly can, because education and information, when used appropriately, kindly, is not going to go to waste. At some stage in your life, and this may be when you're young, this may be as you age, it may be well into your later years, something is going to resonate and something is going to ring so true to you that it just speaks to your higher heart and it feels right and it feels aligned. And again, in such resonance that you decide, this is what I'd like to learn. This is speaking to me. And that could be because it does spark cellular memory within your energy field, your body, your cellular body from a previous lifetime. It may absolutely be giving you the, hey, remember we learned a little bit about this in our previous experiences? It always fascinates me when somebody begins to be so interested and excited about plant medicine or about farming or blacksmithing or textile work or something that would have been of previous lifetimes. And then all of a sudden you find yourself taking a class or reading the books or watching the YouTube tutorials on them. And it's because it speaks to some energy within you, some resonance that says, we've learned a little bit of this, we know a little bit of this, let's expand upon it. That's your inner guidance. That's your intelligence. That's your soul. That is the quote unquote spiritual path. You can't get off your path. So if someone speaks to you in a way that says you are not on a spiritual path, I might question if they are on one, because we can't get off our paths. They may wind, they may take a circuitous route. They may ignore the GPS and go up and over mountains when they didn't need to. However, it is impossible to get off your path. It's your path. It may be something that doesn't look fundamentally spiritual to another, but neither does weeding a garden. That wouldn't look spiritual to someone. It can be the most connective, loving, spiritually awakening task to participate in. So don't let someone dictate to you what your path is or what is spiritual, what isn't spiritual. Because I have seen a lot of people who say my way or the highway in New Age, in energy practices. And that tells me that they may not be connecting in with the true energy of the universe. Again, love, joy, all is well. It's all good. So if somebody has a resolute or a hard and fast, this is the only way, like this is the only bus to get to the other side, the only station, then just be discerning, okay? Like listen to that internal voice, because your inner guidance will lead you. You will feel drawn to a doorway, to an opening. I remember I was visiting a friend out in Colorado, and we went to a friend of hers had a yoga studio, and they would also teach crystal classes and metaphysical center essentially. And there were thousands of pictures on the wall, all about 5x7, 4x6s, something like that. And I walked directly to one and said, may I know who this is? Because I already know who this is, but I don't know who he is as far as like a physical world. And now I recognize his energy. I know his resonance. And can you tell me who he is? And it was Sai Baba when he was still here in the physical, who was an Indian avatar now, but ascended master, because he left his body about 7 years ago, maybe. I was so drawn to him, and it wasn't just because we both have a space in our teeth. I was drawn to his energy. I know him. I knew him, and I know him. My inner guidance drew me right to that. And you may have that experience with a book. You may have that experience with a musician and their lyrics or art, a statue of a deity that you're like, tell me more about this. Just get curious, because a word may catch your attention. A phrase may open up something. You may decide to participate in a physically demanding task, say an ultra marathon. I love watching those on YouTube. I just watched one last night in the Barkley Marathon. So funny. They work so hard. But the guy who puts that on, Lazarus, his last, or the name they've given him is Lazarus something. Oh man, what a character. But what a guiding light to these other people, right? And when they're out doing these loops and they're asking their bodies to do things that they didn't think possible to do. They maybe believed in themselves, but didn't know if they could do this. They still don't know if they could do it till they do it, right? But they have some experiences, and some of them have talked in documentaries and in interviews afterwards about meeting and thinking they were hallucinating. Some of that absolutely true. But some of it may also be that they were then meeting with themselves or awarenesses that they had. Mm. Because sometimes when you put your physical body in such a place, it opens up a spiritual connection. I just had this experience that's occurring to me now. I drove down to South Carolina with my niece and her niece to drop second niece off to her equestrian job for the winter. And we drove 20 hours down on a Thursday, 16 hours back on a Friday. And my last half hour was terrifying. And I won't do that again. I won't do that again. In hindsight, should have pulled over. But I made it home. Obviously, here I am. And I remember going through that, feeling such gratitude for my body. My back never hurt. My back usually hurts on a 2-hour drive. My attention really was there until the last half hour, and that was just the body saying it's time to go to bed. But I remember having a feeling I'm the only one on the highway coming back. And then that last half hour, I remember feeling such gratitude for my life. And then asking Archangel Raphael and Haniel and Michael to get me home safely. Or I remember asking, should I pull over and just take a nap? But that kind of skeeved me out a little bit, more so than pushing for the last half hour. Oh, you know how we made it? Another thing that occurs to me to share with you is I took the magic mind that you've heard about before. I took some for all of us to take with us to provide that focus and that clarity and a little bit of energy. And we used it and I knew it worked, but my niece had not tried it yet. And although it might take a little bit for her palate to get used to it, I love it. It tastes so good to me, citrusy and yummy matcha. Everybody has, when you first take a sip of something and you're like, I have to get used to it, or yummy, that's amazing. We use the magic mind to facilitate the connection with our brain cells and our energy, and the ashwagandha could calm us down because traffic for that long can be very taxing. I loved sharing it with her. I loved the fact that afterwards she was like, that really worked. That really helped me during and power through our last, I think it was hour and a half of Thursday night. And I know that the rhodiola rosea helped us in that section of time. Matcha gave us a little bit of a hit for the energy, but it's amazing. You've heard me talk about it before. I'm going to brag about this to the end of time. They're still running a special for January. So you can go to magicmind.com/Jan Vicky B 20, and it's Vicky with an I. And you'll get a month free when you subscribe for 3 months. And if you use my code VickyB20, they're going to give you an additional 20% off. So you get 75% off that first. You really have nothing to lose to try it. But they're also in all the markets. So you can go to magicmind.com and search for a store near you if you don't want to wait for that. But I would encourage you to go get that and use the discount, because I don't think you should drive 36 hours and 48 hours, but should you have to, there's some assistance that you could get there. And I'm just grateful to them. I'm happy to have it in my life and in my pantry and in my car for that, because it doesn't make you jittery. It actually makes you calm so you can connect and focus. So that's also part of having a connective spiritual life, is looking to what you put in your body. So the older I get, the more conscious of that I get, because I want to stick around and do this podcast for another 20 years. maybe I'll just be beaming into your headspace by then. So, a spiritual path does not mean that you give up everything else to walk a spiritual path. And I want to make that abundantly clear that I actually know that having a practice of spirituality and connection, it works best when it is integrated with the rest of your life. And it's not this thing you just do on Sunday or you just do on Christmas Eve or you do when you want something in return. It's part of a daily routine that firms your connection with life and your connection with other humans. It's honestly, it's practicing compassion, gratitude, presence, appreciation, generosity, meditation, forgiveness, well being, community, reverence, the sanctity of life, and connecting to the life force energy that flows through all your chakras. You can have a spiritual path without naming. It doesn't have to be a structured thing. I think it works best when it's a way of being and when it is an importance in your life, something that matters. So you may have some profound spiritual experiences that come from very simple interaction. And the more open you are to that, the more available it will be because it gets through any of the blocks that may have been installed. And as my sweatshirt says, you are enough. It also helps with any of that lack or any of those traumas that you may be healing from as part of your experience. For me, I can only speak from my experience, but also what I see in others, but primarily from my own. There have been many times in my life where my connection to my soul and to what I believe to be the spiritual support, the source energy, the ascended masters, the angels, my spirit guides, ancestors, friends who have passed, nature, that has supported me in putting foot forward in being human because, like anybody else, I've had some bumpy times. And it's helped me to be curious about what's next because I know that even when I pass, everything goes on, right? I'm still going to be nosy. I'm still going to be connecting in. And when you do this, when you start to look around and see the interconnectedness that exists with all things, you'll explore your inner work with a little less judgment. And that's what I want for you, is you to explore who you are and how you are without judgment so that you can feel the connectivity with the trees, with the animals, with your previous lives, with your future lives, with the planets, with deities, with the people in your life. Like you can feel that connectiveness so that you don't feel alone. That you can experience wonderful moments of being alone because you must be with your own company and learn to like being with your own company, I believe, for any kind of contentedness to be there and self-surety. And you can do this with the support of spirit and breathing and inspiration. Breathing is inspiration. Inspiration means breathing. It also means in spirit. So when you're taking that in through you, you can pause and say, I have spirit supporting me. And I am not here to tell you how to do it. I'm just here to say it's possible. And here are some ways that you could potentially get there through connection with another human and having discussions through a book, through video, through class, through cooking, through artistry, through going for a walk, and just simply feeling your foot hitting the earth. Think of the miraculousness that we are flying through space on this floating ball, and gravity exists and stuff just doesn't float off. Like sometimes my mind goes to that and I can't grasp all of it because I just don't have that level of intelligence, but I can be profoundly impressed by it. As we were driving this past weekend, I remember looking at all the truckers that are out there and thinking, I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you lovely humans, I choose to believe they all are, do this on a regular basis. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to you. I'm grateful to your families. I'm grateful for your know-how and how to drive that. I am impressed that you don't lose your mind with those cars that are zipping in and out. Maybe you do, but you keep your cool. All of this, that interconnectivity and understanding that energy flows through all of us and connects all of us. I don't believe us all to be one being, but it connects all of us is what helps me to have the positivity, the curiosity, the belief, the knowing that everything is okay in whatever form it's in. Everything is okay. It may frustrate us. It may anger us even. And that's okay too, because spiritual practice is not only about embracing what feels good or what feels high in frequency. It's about embracing truth and being transparent in your own feelings and emotions towards that truth. So what could you do? Well, you're listening to this podcast, so you've already done something. Thank you very much. Look at you. You succeeded already. Your compass got you here to listen to this. You're listening this far in. I really appreciate you. Send it to a friend, share it, subscribe if you're not, leave a comment, a review. Would appreciate that too. But you're already listening to this. What else could you do? Well, the next time you're out in the store, smile at someone. Smile at them. Wish them a happy day. Someone helped me find celery the other day in the grocery store because I don't know why they moved it, but I couldn't. And they helped me find it. I was so grateful to her. That was her spiritual path application for that day. And she didn't think anything of it. We actually had a really good laugh about it. You could do some mindful breathing, which I could do right now because I have been talking very fast. You could do it with me. In through your nose, 2, 3, 4, out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, in through your nose, 2, 3, 4, out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4. Nice big deep one in through your mouth, out through your mouth. I close my eyes to breathe, but it always feels like it shuts everything else and it allows me to calm. So you could do some mindful breathing. See how calm my voice sounds now? Sorry about that rattling. I get excited about this conversation topic. You could participate in pottery, something creative. I do needle felting. You could do that if you want. You could shovel a horse stall. You could mow the lawn. Well, this time of year, you could snow blow. I find that so meditative. It's so satisfying too, because you take this, 8, 10 inches of snow and then it's wonderful. You could take yourself off with a notebook somewhere and write. You could work with any of the kits that are out now, the diamond painting, the knitting wheels, the pottery wheels, the collaging. Just take a bunch of magazines if you still get magazines, you might have to borrow those. You could plan your garden for the spring. If you have a patio, you can do a garden. You can still have pot that you grow plants in. And that would be your connection to nature. You could volunteer. You could sit and pet your cat or your dog or your llama or your alpaca. I was walking the dog yesterday. We got down around the corner. There was an alpaca standing right in front of me. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So my autoresponder is to go really calm and to control the dog. And I was figuring out how I could adjust the leash because my leash has a couple different extensions. Well, her leash has a couple different extensions on it. And I'm like, okay, I can take that out, hook her up. I have something to put over the alpaca neck. And then I realized, Vicky, just walk towards the alpaca and it'll go home. It did. And then its person then came up the road. But you could connect. But in that moment, while I was figuring it out, I was just making that connection and gratitude in humor. Also watching to see what the dog was going to do, because that's a new situation. But being so present in anything that you're doing today, maybe that's what you do. You set your intention to be present and not avoidant or distracted. And that'll start it. So there is one way to walk a spiritual path. There isn't one way to be on path. There were years ago, that was terrible grammar. Years ago, over a decade now, I was planning on walking. Where was I going to go? Just drawing a blank. Can't think of the name of it. Anywho, I was going to go do the pilgrimage over there. And then I was training and walking around the neighborhood. I loved my neighborhood. It was such beautiful roads and there were hills and everything. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why do I think I have to go to another country, do this short period of time to do a pilgrimage to connect with myself when these walks do the same thing and I'm still in my country? I can sleep in my bed tonight. I have my own cell phone and health insurance plan. I remember at the time I was researching those. And it was a good awakening for me about not needing to go somewhere in order to connect with thyself. The universe speaks to all of us through infinite channels. I feel like we all have our own channel and you each have our own frequency. And hopefully through awareness and expansion, we're raising that frequency. And your frequency may align with what someone else has done. Maybe they worked with stones and crystals and it works for you, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't interest you. Maybe you think it's hogwash or it's boring. Whatever inspires you, whatever helps you feel that lit up, even if it's just a little dark, sometimes it's not a full flow to begin. Whatever does that for you, that is your connection to your spirit, and to a spiritual path. Whatever it is, it's perfect. It's good. You're good. You are enough. And it will continue to change. Maybe you'll be interested in archaeology. Maybe all of a sudden you have to collect every plant that needs a home. Maybe you'll go back to school and get an MBA. I don't know what your path is. I'm happy to help you with that. I'm so excited to hear what it is. And I would love you to believe that whatever it is, it's perfect, divine for you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being part of my spiritual path. I know that this podcast, the courses, the coaching, the sessions, I very much know that my soul came in and said, I want to help others not experience the bouncing around and feeling untethered and without a lead that I did, and not understanding what is energy, what is intuition, and what is this spiritual path thing. and to have it available to everyone, which is why this will always be free. And I appreciate you. And go ahead, hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Reach out to me, Vicky Baird Coaching, on all the platforms. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to vickybaird.com. That's VICKIBAIRD.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.